The yearly salary of baseball, football, and basketball players from 1970 to 2000 are shown in this graph, which is expressed in US dollars. Players in the sports of baseball, football, and basketball made an average yearly salary of $100,000 in 1970. Basketball players, on the other hand, had the highest yearly income in 2000, at $2.4 million. Major League Baseball, MLB, players earned an average salary of $1.6 million per year. The lowest paid athletes in the NFL made an average of $750,000 a year. Basketball players earned the most money per year in 2000, while football players earned the least. The complicated image depicts the entire amount of water on the planet. Only 2.5% of the water is fresh and so drinkable, whereas 97.5% is salty. The picture also shows the fresh water sources, which total 35 million cubic kilometers. Glaciers and permanent snow provide for 68.7% of total fresh water, groundwater for 30%, and ground ice and permafrost for 0.86%. Lakes account for 26% of ground ice and permafrost, whereas soil accounts for 0.5%, atmosphere for 0.04%, wetlands for 0.03%, rivers for 0.006%, and plants and animals for 0.003%. Overall, we may conclude that usable water is in short supply and that sources are few. The water cycle is depicted here, from precipitation to evaporation, using this method. Precipitation is the first step in the water cycle, which begins with snow or rain falling from the sky and generating a cascade. Evaporation occurs when water evaporates due to the sun's heat. This causes a complete restart of the water cycle. The water cycle progresses through several stages. Here is a graph showing how couples divide their time and effort. There were fewer women, -1.25, than males, -0.75, who did more than half of the housework. Cleaning jobs are held disproportionately by women, 0.2, compared to males, 0.1. Respondent working part-time and partner working full-time elicited equal results from men and women, 0.3. They felt the same way about the twofold increase in hourly wages, 0. In general, the attitudes of men and women to the division of labor differed at times. The internet population is depicted graphically in this figure. According to the graph, China has the highest number, which is around 175 people. The graph shows that the United States has the second highest number, at about 165. It is plain to observe that Mexico and the Netherlands have the fewest amount, which is approximately 15. As a result, China's internet population dwarfs that of the United States. More people in the United States are online than in Mexico or the Netherlands. The map of Australia's population density is depicted in this graph. To put this into perspective, each dot represents 1,000 individuals. When we glance up, we see Darwin and a smattering of specks closely spaced on the horizon. There are only a few dots in the center, and they are a long distance apart. Looking to the right, we can make out Brisbane and Sydney, as well as several more little dots. Melbourne and Hobart are clearly visible, as are a huge number of dots clustered together, indicating a high population density. As a result, the major Australian cities have a higher population density. This photograph shows few chimpanzees are being observed by two scientists or photographers. As one of them is carrying a notebook in the hand, so it can be assumed that they are not only observing the behavior of chimpanzees but also taking notes and shooting them by camera. 3 chimpanzees can be seen in the picture. One of them is looking at camera by which the photograph is being clicked. Also, the background shows a kind of vegetation which is mostly seen in the forests. It seems this photograph is taken by another person else who is also observing behavior of chimpanzees. The graphs show the percentages of men and women who are interested in play, painting, sculpture, and language, among other things. Learning a foreign language is the most popular pastime for women, as the bar graph shows, whereas painting is the most popular pastime for men. Both men and women find sculpting to be an unappealing pastime. In terms of age, 42% of the population is over the age of 50, followed by 26% of the population in their 40s. As a result, young people are more likely to devote their time to other pursuits. (2017's corruption impressions are depicted on this map. The higher a country's ranking, from 1 to 180, the more corrupt it is. The chart shows that New Zealand, with a score of 90, is the country with the lowest level of corruption, followed by Singapore, with a score of 85. Corruption is worse in Somalia and Iraq than everywhere else in the world, with a total score of 20. In addition, countries with lower scores than the norm, such as Russia, Bahrain, and Jamaica, suffer from high levels of corruption. As a result, there is less corruption in North America, Europe, and Oceania. The frequency with which various forms of technology are utilized is depicted in this bar graph, which displays the data in millions. There are 8 million people that use the telephone as their primary mode of communication. TVs, 6 million, computers, 4.5 million, radio, 3.5 million, and iPods, 1.5 million, round out the top 5 devices, 1 million. The camera is the least popular technology, with just about 300,000 users. Telephones and webcams are the most frequently utilized technologies, respectively, in the United States. The data on the graph pertains to food in the future. The graph shows that by 2035, when looking at world wealth, the biggest number, 90, will be discovered. In 2005, the least number is roughly 45 people. According to the graph, we can clearly observe that in 2035, the highest number of EU citizens will be about 65. There were roughly 30 in 2005, when the lowest number was recorded. To summarize, this graph depicts data on global food consumption in nations like Japan, India, and China. The image serves as a visual record of the experiment's results. Students and their teacher are doing an experiment on the blue desk in the photo, as can be seen. The experiment that one of the pupils is conducting appears to be being closely monitored by the teacher. In addition, we can see that all of the students are wearing protective eyewear for their own protection. To summarize, this image depicts the steps involved in doing a chemical experiment. The graph below shows information on various methods of recycling. Thermal recycling, chemical recycling, and material recycling are among the options. This graph shows that the value of unrecycling is roughly 1.85 million tons. This graph shows that the value of material recycling is roughly 2 million tons, which is greater. This graph shows that the figure for thermal recycling is approximately 5.5 million tons, which is the highest. You can also observe from this graph that the figure for chemical recycling is approximately 0.38 million tons, which is the lowest. Finally, this graph is quite useful. The closed-loop recycling process is depicted in this graph. The graph shows that the first stage is to collect and recycle waste. Sort and shred is the name given to the second phase in the process, as seen in the diagram. Mold and manufacture may clearly be seen in the third phase as seen in the graph. Assemble and ship comes next, followed by purchase and usage as the last stage. To sum everything up, this is a helpful diagram. The Bermuda Triangle is depicted in the graph, which includes relevant data. A glance at the graph shows that when we look at the top, Florida is clearly visible and green is clearly visible. We can see both Bermuda and the island. The graph shows that the Gulf of Mexico and white may be seen while looking to the left of the picture. The graph shows that the Bermuda Triangle and the color blue can clearly be seen in the center of the picture. We can clearly distinguish Puerto Rico and green in the bottom right corner of the image, as shown in the graph. According to the graph, we can clearly see the Caribbean Sea and blue at the bottom of the photo. To sum it up, this is an extremely helpful map. Over the last decade, there have been some troubling developments in metropolitan female education. The number of females who are illiterate has decreased from 442 in 1999 to 2000 to 373 in 2004-05. In 2009 to 10, it fell even more to 298. The number of females with finished elementary education was 174 in 1999 to 2000, rising to 203 in 2004-05 before falling to 193 in 2009 to 10. In the years 1999 to 2000, 2004-05, and 2009 to 10, however, the number of girls who successfully finished secondary education increased from 281 to 305 and then to 382. A LED and a glass cover may be seen in this photograph of a solar light. The lamp cover and the glass cover include all of the solar yard light's components. The solar light's battery, controller board, and LED are all placed near the bottom. The photoresistor and photovoltaic cells are also within. All in all, the solar light has a number of different components. The life cycle of a honeybee is seen in the image above. A queen bee produces eggs, which may take many days to develop. The eggs hatch into larvae following the hatching process, and the larva stage is followed by the third stage. The body begins to develop during the pupa stage. The full body is created in the fourth stage, the adult stage. Overall, all life phases must be crossed, from birth to the development of an egg to an adult honeybee. There is a pyramid of human needs depicted in this image. The lowest layers of the pyramid are made up of people's basic requirements, such as physiological necessities and the need for protection and safety. People's psychological needs come before all of this. Belonging and affection as well as self-esteem are included in this. Finally, the apex of the pyramid shows self-fulfillment needs if all of these requirements are satisfied. Self-actualization refers to a person's ability to realize their full potential. The overall message conveyed by this image is that people's most basic needs come first. Two different types of woods may be seen all around the world on this map. To distinguish between evergreen and deciduous woods, the color green is used for evergreen forests and red for deciduous forests, which are found mostly in North America and nations located around equator. In general, it appears that evergreen forests are more prevalent in the West while deciduous forests are more prevalent in the East around the globe.